So, welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast. I'm so delighted that I have my co host here, Amber Sousa, who's looking gorgeous as always. I love this like embroidered looking shirt. You look like you're
I,
on vacation.
well, no, I'm not. I was trying to think of something funny to say, but no, there's no vacation happening, but thank you.
You're welcome.
At least I look like I'm on vacation. So
Yeah.
I look like I'm like somewhere warm and
Yeah.
sunny, like on a boat somewhere having you know,
Yeah.
a mocktail. Anyway,
And
okay.
and you're living in close to the LA area,
I live in Palos Verdes,
Palos Verdes,
which is
um,
sunny, which is sunny often.
which is
So,
sunny often.
yeah.
And I used to live where it's sunny often. I now live where it's not sunny often.
Right.
So
Which,
I need
yes.
some of your glow. So I gotta figure that out. Today we are speaking with my husband's ex-girlfriend.
I didn't know that.
I know.
Okay. Great.
Surprise.
Wow. This is interesting. Okay. You just decided to tell me right this second, minutes before she's coming on. Okay. Wonderful. This is great. I'm so happy that you feel such a, admiration for her to have
I,
her on.
I do.
This is good news. This means that your husband has good taste in women.
He does.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I will not be bringing on any of my ex-husband's girlfriends or ex-girlfriends. So just to be clear.
Don't say never.
Not that yeah, that's a lie. Maybe I will. Maybe you never know. Never say never. Never say never.
You never know.
Never know.
Here's the thing. I feel really evolved as a person.
You are.
In no, it makes me feel really good about myself that
Yes.
I love Hannah so much
Yes.
because I have been the type of person who's been very insecure and jealous.
Right.
I have been the type of person with Jake to have that be like the source of like a pain point,
Yeah.
a pain
Yeah.
point for us, especially in the beginning of our marriage.
I
So,
think I think pretty much it's safe to say that every woman has experienced that in some form in a relationship, feeling insecure, feeling jealous. Like those are pretty common
yeah,
feelings,
yeah,
and new in relationships and
yeah. I think there's a
yeah.
spectrum of like how
Yeah.
heightened certain women feel
Right.
depending on their baggage and depending on
That's right. Their
their
core wounds.
their
Hmm.
partner's behavior and
Yeah.
the way you communicate and all of this. So it's very exciting to me to be friends with Hannah and to I want to say showcase her because she's doing amazing work. And I just got to see her, and when we were in London, Jake and I had not a non-alcoholic drink. Like we went to see Back to the Future musical, and then we met up with Hannah in the West
That's a
End.
musical right now?
It's a
Oh
musical.
my God. I just watched Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 with my son a couple weeks ago.
I
That's so cool.
mean,
It's so cool.
it's one of the best movies. But
It
as a
is.
musical, I
Not
don't
so
know.
much.
I don't know. It was fun. It was fun. That's a different
That's frog
conversation.
in my
But
throat.
I want to talk about Hannah.
Tell me.
So she is a coach and a speaker specializing in burnout prevention and high performance mindset. With her bespoke approach and vast array of cognitive and somatic coaching tools NLP, EFT, breathwork, and mindfulness, to name a few. Hannah helps both the individual and corporate team to leave behind the popular hustle mentality and replace it with holistic high performance and personal fulfillment. Hannah is passionate about changing the way we work, both as individuals and in business. Her mission is to teach as many people as possible to discover and fall in love with their authentic selves, uncovering their unique abilities and purpose along the way and allowing them to show up fully and consciously in every aspect of their lives. With 15 years as a professional musician, she's performs she performs in all sorts of Broadway shows, or not Broadway, West End, because she's in London, West End shows.
Okay.
Over a decade in personal and corporate coaching, including neurodivergent coaching and training. Hannah uses her vast experience and knowledge to inspire and empower others to tap into their personal power, confidence, and authenticity. Hannah helps her clients to release past trauma and unlearn all negative conditioning and limiting beliefs. Clients are empowered to go beyond their personal glass ceilings, show up unapologetically as their true selves, and create a life by design from a place of true worthiness. So Hannah and we were coaching each other.
Okay.
For a while when she was focused on coaching. Then she took a break and she was doing a lot of performance. And then now she's starting to integrate the coaching back in again.
Nice.
So that's why I was like, oh, you should come on our show, because I want to, I want you to meet her and I want our friends to meet her. And I think she's so amazing. And not just as a coach, but as a person. And she and I have had a lot of like really fascinating conversations and a lot of similarities. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited to meet her.
I'm laughing because, like there's so many things that she and I could be talking about, but we don't really go into.
How long ago did she date your husband? Like, because you guys have been together for a long time, right?
We've been together for 15 years. And she'll know better when they were dating. I think it was a couple years, like maybe 20 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that, you would think like, oh, well, they're just gonna, talk about what was so challenging with Jake, or what was so challenging with his family,
I see. Yeah.
And we don't really
but you have so many other things in common, sounds like.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, performing, coaching, helping women live their most authentic and unapologetic lives. So
being a mother. And so she's come to breathwork a few times, and that's been amazing, facilitating her in that way. You'll see she's like very warm and very sweet, and but also down to earth, very talented. I think she's popping on. Maybe we started a little too early.
Well, while we're waiting, have you seen the movie Coco?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we watched it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I was like sobbing. It's such a good movie. I just want to say, anyway, watch the movie Coco. Okay. There you go. It's such a good movie. It's like so aligned with everything we talk about, like really being true to who you are.
Hannah! Hi.
Oh, it's so good to see your face.
Thank you. Good to see your face. So this is Amber. Hannah,
nice
meet
to
Amber.
Meet you.
You too. I love your tree.
Oh, thank you. I love your accent.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I'm feeling very festive here. It's very fun.
I have my tree. I set it up yesterday, but I have been forbidden by my son to decorate it until he's back with me on Wednesday. So it's gonna sit there bare for a while.
Yeah, that's important. It's
Yeah,
it's a family thing.
definitely. Definitely.
So
How old is your
Hannah,
son?
oh,
Oh, I was just gonna
He,
say, how old is your son?
oh, he's going to be 14 in a few weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
teens.
okay. So Hannah, I read your bio before you popped on.
Okay.
So we're immersed in your world of coaching and being a speaker and performance mindset, and we've talked about all this. Um, there's so much that I want to talk to you about. So first of all, welcome and thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Second of all, I'm so excited that you and Amber get to meet, because you've both been very important in my life.
Oh.
And you've both been people that I've exchanged coaching with and breath work with. And then thirdly, I just really want to share everything that you're learning about and that you're serving with and how you're serving with our people. So one thing we all have in common here is being a mom. So you were just talking about your son. So I'm just thinking it might be nice to dive into. I recently, before we got on this call, was having a challenging conversation about parenting.
Mm.
So, being an entrepreneur, as we three are, and being a mom, what's that like for you?
Mm. Where do we start? Where do we start with this? Well, it's funny you should say that because the first thing that comes up for me is, and I'm skipping ahead here
Yeah.
massively, but it's that I actually don't have my son with me a lot of the time. And I have a huge amount of freedom, which affords me some amazing things and also a lot of grief and guilt. And so, what I've been part of the reason actually that I began this journey as an entrepreneur, as well as obviously feeling like it was a calling and something that I needed to do to help people and to help myself, was also actually to have more freedom and stability, because I wanted to be able to choose when I was going to be around for my child. I didn't want to subscribe to this thing where we are at the mercy of money and time as to whether we get to parent our children in the way that we want to. So part of it was about creating a very kind of conscious journey as a parent, but then even more so when I separated from his father, and even more so when we unfortunately had a custody battle and I ended up with a less than favorable situation, was like, okay, now it's really important to me that I get to create the rules around when I work and when I don't work. And that's ongoing. It's improving hugely. In fact, I have zero work over Christmas out of choice. And I'm so excited about just like, I think probably for the first time ever, I'm just going to be at home chilling with my kid. And I'm so grateful for that. And so I think, so when you say, what's that like for me? I feel like I'm still very much in the process of making that how I want it to be. But a lot of the guilt is releasing itself as I create the kind of balance that I want to create within something that I'm still not happy with. And that's been a big part of it as well, is realizing that it's quality over quantity every single time. And that actually, I would say for anyone who's struggling with that balance anyway, is that the way that we are present and conscious with our children is so much more important than the amount of time that we're around, because who wants us around when we're grumpy and at our wits' end and triggered all over the place, right? So I think we have to cut ourselves a lot of slack around how much we show up as the version of ourselves that we want to be, and what we need to create in order to do that, whether it's more time or whether it's a shift in mindset. But it's just a crazy, as you both know, a crazy journey, and it's an ongoing learning curve. So yeah, that's what comes to mind for me when you say parenting and entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Hannah, thank you for sharing that. Well, first of all, my heart is with you, and I understand as a divorced mom with two children. 9 and 11. I know what it's like, to have to drop them off at dad's and come home by myself.
Yeah.
But what you said kind of touches, Siri and I were actually talking about this before we hopped on the call with you, like how this concept of we as women really like becoming the version of ourselves that we know we're here to be, the best version, like the belief in this concept that actually serves our children greater than any of the self-sacrifice that we've been taught and conditioned to think we're supposed to,
Yes.
operate in. And
Yeah.
so I'm really happy that you brought that up, because I think it's really important as embodied women, to just keep this message going. And in your bio, you talk about how you help women release past trauma and unlearn all negative conditioning and limiting beliefs. And I think, I would love to hear more about how you do that, but B, like, I think we're all in on that journey, like,
Yeah.
right, in becoming the woman that we know we're here to be, letting go of past conditioning, healing and releasing past trauma. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your own life experience, right? Because I know we all teach what we've lived and what we've come through ourselves.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can start by what kind of, past trauma and limiting beliefs have you had to heal and release so that you can support women in the way that you do today?
Thank you. Good questions. And again, where to start? Well, I think for me, it very much started with stepping into my confidence. I came from a place of never feeling good enough. And at the same time, knowing that there was so much I wanted to do, and I felt like there was so much potential there, but I would self-sabotage pretty much at every turn, whether it was performance anxiety and I would, screw something up that I knew I could do really well if no one was watching, or whether it was, for me, it was often sort of procrastination and time induced. One of the reasons that I'm so passionate about helping people with burnout is because I spent most of my young adult life feeling exhausted and I didn't know why. And then it perpetuated that kind of self-sabotage cycle of I don't do enough, therefore I am not enough, I am not good enough, I'm not productive enough, I'm not fast enough. And just entrenching myself in this kind of like everyone else seems to be managing better than me kind of mentality. Um, and it wasn't really until, well, when I first came across coaching, actually, it was for performance anxiety. Well, it was also because I was bored and I was looking for something else to do. But it really sparked this curiosity that we could start to focus on what we did want instead of what we didn't want, and start to use the power of the conscious and the subconscious mind to reprogram the way that we think and feel, and therefore behave, and therefore get different results. So to start with, it was quite cerebral for me. I thought, this is amazing. I can tell myself different things and I can set goals and I can work towards them. And it was really powerful. This was in my sort of early to mid 20s. And I started coaching people around the mindset aspect of things. And then it wasn't until later on that I started to really drop into the embodiment side of things and wants to feel safe in my body, and realize that that's where my energy was kind of hiding out, right? I started to learn about the nervous system and the vagus nerve, and I realized when I put it all together, and I think, the journey is always as it's meant to be. I think I sort of had to start on the cerebral level before it was safe enough to kind of uncover the other levels. But when I started to realize that it's the whole picture, that we have to do the embodiment stuff. So when I work with people, to answer your question, I will do a lot of somatic work in terms of I do tapping with people. I encourage them to express their emotions in any and whatever way is right for them. I talk a lot about finding this physical, mental, emotional balance of things that allow us to have outlets and reclaim our energy and ground ourselves. But then we also do a lot of talking therapy as well, a lot of mindset work and reframes. And the combination of those things, of the physical, mental, and emotional, allow us then to kind of holistically bring all parts of us back together, which is, for me, I think what being embodied really is. It's about feeling whole and owning all parts of ourselves and feeling safe with all parts of ourselves. And then we start to, well, the thing that fascinates me the most is that we can heal our burnout by healing our nervous system. It's not by doing less or trying to make ourselves do more. It's not from the outside, it's from the inside of the wheel. It's that most powerful kind of pivotal place that we heal, and then we reclaim our energy, and we find that on the outside, we're naturally doing and being more. And again, it's not about how much have you produced, what are you doing, how much time are you doing stuff. It's more that the moreness is us being more of us. Likely that does end up looking like we have more energy and we can do more because we're just not getting in our own way so much. So it basically started from me figuring out how to get out of my own way and then help other people do the same. But yeah, it's just, and like you say, it continues to be something that we work through. There's no end to growth. It's exponential. So
Yes.
it's exciting to share, where I've come from with the people that I work with, knowing that there's always going to be more. There's always more I can learn, and there's more I can help with. And that really lights me up. I'm a bit of a geek for all kinds of modalities and knowledge, and I just love to keep learning. So it excites me.
Hannah, what's a catalyst where you were never the same after?
Good question. I was thinking about this earlier, and I mean, there are so many, but I think, to be honest, it was the relationship that I was in that caused me to have this whole sort of, shift in dynamic with my son. And it was something that I had got to a stage where I'd been single for 3 years, and I thought, great, I've healed all my stuff. I'm sorted. This is great. And I started like writing, what kind of person I'd love to be with. And I attracted this person, and on paper, it was perfect. And I thought, done it. And he proposed to me after like 5 weeks. And there were all these red flags, right? And I just was not seeing them. And in retrospect, as with so many of these things, I think I had to go through that. It was an incredibly narcissistic, emotionally abusive 2 years. But I came out of it a changed person. I came out of it with very clear boundaries about what I would and wouldn't accept in a relationship, what my priorities were. Everything, pretty much everything had burnt to the ground. I was kind of basically bankrupt and homeless, and I laugh about that now. It's serious. It was a very serious, dark time. But I think that when we go through things like that, we really do discover what we're capable of. And when we get moments of fear, we can look back and we can say, well, you know what? I was pretty much as low as I could possibly be, and I was still okay. I had amazing friends and connections and serendipitous things that happened that carried me into the next level that I needed to be at. And then consequently, I attracted a much better relationship after that was like actually allowed my nervous system to calm down and feel safe. And I think that was very much a catalyst for who I am now. I started taking myself more seriously. I invested in myself. That was when I started actually marketing what I do and learning how to do that. So I think I probably needed to figure out what I wasn't going to put up with in order to know what I stand for and who I am and what I do want.
Got it.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen to all of that.
Also to help other people at a different level, because you can see it coming now. You can see it when people are, sacrificing their boundaries for other people, or they're in a narcissistic relationship, or they have that such low self-worth that they're not investing in themselves or putting themselves first, or self-sabotaging. And so again, like, we go through it so that we can spot it and help it in other people.
Do you remember, because I always find that we have like a profound, impactful experience in our youth that perhaps we look back on and we're like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal, but like it was a bit of a catalyst. Like you said that you never felt good enough. Like, was there some, because I think that, I don't know, when children are born, they feel good enough,
right?
And then something happens, whether, I don't know. I mean, do you have some idea of like, or do you have an experience that you started to question yourself or started to not feel really good about yourself? Because I mean, many of us end up in relationships that aren't as, loving as we'd like them to be.
Mm.
And there's a reason why we allow ourselves to ignore all the red flags. Do you know, or would you like to share a little bit about that? Because I think there's a lot of women who have that experience.
Yeah. Do you mean specifically in relationships or just in general?
Well, I think that before we become these empowered, embodied women who are able to set clear boundaries and know what we'll stand for and what we won't stand for, there's a version of us that doesn't think we're worthy or doesn't think we're good enough and ignores red flags.
Mm.
So I would just be curious to see, kind of what your thoughts are about that.
I think, there are so many, I could give you various different moments that I remember, and I think that they are all significant. And at the same time, I think that we can put a lot of onus on those things. Like I've had tons of times where I've been meditating or I've been in hypnosis, and these kind of moments have come back and I've gone, oh, that makes sense and that makes sense. So there's lots of those, and I think they are really important. And at the same time, something I've been exploring more recently is this idea of people who are emotionally unavailable. And I think I had, I, I will preface this, of course, with I adore my parents in their individual, wonderful ways. They're both fantastic. And I've done a lot of processing and forgiveness work and coming to this unconditional acceptance kind of place. But I think that they were both unavailable at different points due to their own stuff going on. And I think that when you experience that, and again, taking all blame out of it, whatever the reasons were, when you are a child in a situation where you can't get what you need emotionally in that moment, you will do anything to get it. And for some children, that's overt attention seeking. And for others, that's people pleasing and people rescuing. And that was very much me. I would be controlling in a way that I didn't realize was controlling. And that would be to make sure that everyone else around me was okay. Or I think particularly as that manifested with men later on, was to be the best version of myself without actually maybe paying attention to what I needed, because I thought I would get the attention if I was always there for them, or if I was, the rescuer or the healer or the comforter. And I think that was probably from kind of trying to grab what I needed at the time that it was available to me, and this underlying feeling that it wasn't most of the time. And I think that creates for a very on edge nervous system, and this very, very deep seated, I've done a lot of work with disappointment in the past. There's this kind of expectation of like something wonderful happens and then it's going to get taken away. And I think it's that underlying feeling of I don't get my needs met, and if it looks like they might be met, that could change any second anyway.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
that's a tricky one to shift, because it creeps up on you. And I will find sometimes, wonderful things will happen, and then there'll be this little voice that goes, well, you never know, it's not going to last, or you'd better do this to make sure it does. And that's something that I'm much better at catching and realizing that in that moment, that's when I need to take care of myself. That's when it's my job, not somebody else's job. But it's tough to catch it sometimes.
Hannah, I just
Beautiful.
had a breathwork session. I just had a breathwork session where Jake was holding space for me. I explained to our audience that Jake is your ex-boyfriend.
Oh. Yeah, from a million years ago, but yes.
And how wonderful that he was doing that for me. And then at the end of it, I sabotaged. I went into let's have a fight. And I literally just had that experience with him right before our conversation today. We don't fight that much anymore. And it's like so interesting because of what you're saying. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's too good. You're here, you're supporting me, you're holding my hand, you're letting me cry in front of you, you're letting me scream in front of you. You're holding space, you're being kind. Let's have a fight.
Yeah, something must be wrong here, right? Let's just yeah. Oh gosh. I feel you. I totally feel you. Something, it's that Oh, and it so often happens when we do feel safe that inner child kicks up and wants
Mhm.
to come out again and go, no, no, hold on. I know it to be this way. This is actually where I feel safer, right? Adult healed me is creating this lovely healed space, but I feel safe when things are unstable because that's what I know. And it's
Yes.
the hardest thing to have compassion and hold space for, because that is actually, I think, when the real healing happens, and it's a challenge.
I feel so uncomfortable being so vulnerable with someone that is so safe. It's
Yes.
like, no, you're gonna leave me. You are gonna leave, and I'm gonna create that you're gonna leave right now so that I can feel familiar because that's what's familiar, is you're gonna leave.
Yep, 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 yep. And anyone who hasn't ever experienced that, or hasn't, I mean, we've all experienced, but maybe might not have been conscious of it. It's like it is a physical addiction. It's like sitting there with the box of chocolates going, I know I'm going to feel crap when I've eaten all of you, but eating all of you is going to give me more certainty and familiarity that I'll feel full and I'll have had enough. And so I'm going to do it anyway. And
Mhm.
it's you uncontrollable in that moment.
Mm.
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 Everything always works. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen. And
I was like, perfect.
these conversations are, yeah, they're just so healing. And I I think this conversation is so important. And to hear you talk about, just how the healer and the people pleaser and, like the rescuer and the
Mm.
role. I mean, that's such a common experience that we have as women. And I think moving into this new space that we are, it's like, how do we bring in the part of us, right, that wants to love others and wants to help others heal, and right, wants to help the people that we love be their best, and without sacrificing ourselves, without abandoning ourselves, right? So I feel like, that's something that's why we're having these conversations, is so that we can all help each other move into this new territory of like, okay, what does it feel like
Mm.
to love myself and love another person, and right, like assist in someone's healing, but not do it in a way that's abandoning myself, or it's like, so you help women a lot with this, and you talked about embodiment practices. What to you is an embodied woman?
Mm. So, just to speak to what you said there earlier, I love that so much, and I think it's a very hard balance to find. But the two words that came up to me when you were talking about that, in terms of, being able to connect with that natural nurturer inside us and also not sacrifice our boundaries with other people, um, is knowing ourselves so intimately that we know what we need in order to fill our cups up first, because it's like the oxygen mask. That's pointless trying to help somebody else unless you have come to a place of stability yourself. And also, what was the other one? Self-awareness and unattachment to outcome. Because
Mm,
again, I think sometimes we look to heal to make ourselves safe, because if
Mm.
you're safe, I'm safe. And so I think we have to check ourselves as
mm,
healers and helpers, that we're not doing it in a way that we're unattached, that we're attached to that other person's well-being. And so those two
right.
things just came to mind when you were saying that, because it is a really difficult, there's no magical answer, but I think for me, those are the places that I always come back to, is like, am I looking after me and what I need?
Yep.
It's like, anyone who's familiar with the Abraham Hicks teachings will say, we teach selfishness. And most
Yes.
people get it. They're like, how can you be so selfish? Surely you should be. It's like, no, it's selfish is just going, in this context, is going inwards and being self-aware before you then give your energy out and help other people. But being an embodied woman, to me, is kind of what I was saying earlier. I think it's owning all part of ourselves and loving all parts of ourselves. So there's the inner child, and then there's the seductress woman, and then there's the mother, and then there's the nurturer. That, like, there's all parts of us that I think we've been taught, for whatever reason, one way or another, to suppress or to push away, or to think, well, if I'm going to be this kind of woman, then I need to not be childish or girly, or if I'm going to be fun, then I need to not be serious and
Mm.
intellectual. And it's bringing all of those parts home and letting it be okay that any of them come out in different moments, and knowing that we've got access to all of that and we love and accept all of that. And for me, that kind of just feels like being home, and it feels like being whole. And I find myself kind of grinning, a bit of a cheeky grin every now and then, and just feels like I don't need anything in order for me to have this feeling. It's what being completely aligned with myself feels like. And to add to all of that as well, then there's the physical aspect that I never used to have, which is feeling totally brilliant in my body, like in touch with it, alive. I do a lot of yoga because I feel like when I stretch, I can feel my whole self. It's just, I feel like my physical body is awake, my heart's awake, my mind's awake, and they're all just in sync with each other. I think that's what it feels like to be me, and then owning my femininity at the same time.
That
Brilliant.
congruency. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a coherence and a congruency and coming into alignment with all aspects of yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you talked about yoga.
Mm.
What other practices bring you to your embodiment? Like, do you, and maybe more specifically, do you have an experience recently where you felt like you're not in alignment and then you employed some of your practices? Like, what are your go-tos, like your top three?
So my top three are definitely movement. And what are my top three? Movement at the moment is a really top one for me. I've been dancing a lot. I've been putting salsa music on and dancing around like a crazy woman in my house, and I love it so much. I was doing a launch recently, and I found 3 songs that just sent shivers down my spine. And actually, one of them was you introduced me to Beautiful Chorus. One of them is one of their, I think it's called Hymn for Healing. And I used them and anchored them as my kind of creating that space where I was that version of me that I wanted to be, showing up for my clients and teaching and, marketing myself with total confidence. So I used the music as an anchor. I used the movement as a tool to get into that space. And meditation for me is really, really important, but I find that it is not as effective if I haven't been physical first, because my default tends to be very overthinky and a very busy mind. So if I try and just sit myself down and focus mentally, it doesn't work as effectively as if I've sweated and got myself out of breath and then come down to stillness. And again, that's why I think that we have to look at all aspects of ourselves. Everyone's different, and for some people, meditation will work better for them than movement. But I think just having that balance for me really, really helps. And also getting myself out of my environment. Again, I can get very kind of insulated. I love being at home. I love my house. I love my office. And I forget sometimes that just shifting our environment can shift our whole way of thinking and our whole perception. And often, actually, if I need to write or if I need to create something, I will go into nature. And actually, one of my non-negotiables is to go for a walk every single morning and just get into the park, get into the trees, come back, do some movement, and start my day. So yeah, for me, it's quite physical at the moment. But finding and being aware, again, self-awareness of the things that bring me into that place. And more recently, I've started to become more familiar with what that muscle feels like. So we really can, I know it sounds a bit pie in the sky, but we really can shift ourselves into any emotional state that we want to. Sometimes my mind will absolutely argue with that and go, well, no, I can't because I haven't had enough sleep and I need at least 5 hours relaxing. But actually, the more we practice it, it is possible, if we can get the stories out of the way and calm the inner child and feel like we have our needs met, to kind of go, do you know what? If I go out for half an hour and I listen to this piece of music and I set the intention that this is going to absolutely shift my state, I can come back feeling like a completely different version of me. And that kind of shift in state would have taken me days in the past. And if I really have to, I'm better when there's a deadline, but if I really have to, I know I can do it in the space of minutes or hours. And that for me is the most exciting thing, to know that we can come back from that place of like the opposite of congruence and coherence. It's like that spacey kind of fragmented, triggered version of ourselves into the coherent version of ourselves. And it is through building the muscle of intention and choice. And that's one of the things that excites me the most, I think.
I love that. I love that so much. Like when you're talking about that, I think something that is so incredibly valuable, and you just said it, oftentimes if we find ourselves like disempowered or frustrated or in fear or having anxiety, we think that we need to like fix it right in that moment, or we go down the rabbit hole of like why we're feeling like that and all this stuff. And what you're saying is pause, like take a pause, like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm feeling, A, B, or C. I'm just going to put this down for a moment, and I'm going to go dance, or I'm going to go walk in nature. I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to do any of the things that are going to bring me back more into a place of resonance, congruence, alignment. And then I can go back and see what it looks like through this new lens of alignment.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think there is, you put it so much more succinctly than I did, but I think there is absolute merit in looking at the stuff. And, there's a time and a place for it, absolutely. But if we do it from that place of anxiety and overthinking and going down the rabbit hole, we're only, like you say, going to get further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So come back and do it when we, because again, I mean, whether you're talking energetically or physiologically, we just don't have access to the different kinds of thoughts when we're triggered, because our nervous system is in fight or flight or freeze. So your brain is just not functioning, even in terms of blood flow, in a way that will allow you to access those more rational thoughts, that slightly different perspective. Or if you're talking energetically, you're just on a different vibrational level. Like you've got access to a whole different reality and way of being when you've shifted your state. So yeah, absolutely, you put it perfectly.
I'm curious, Hannah, about embodiment and money, like how you relate to money as an embodied woman, and thoughts about money and abundance. Just anything you want to share about that.
She's smiling and she's happy. This is good.
It's one of my favorite topics. So my money story has changed hugely over the last few years. And again, it's gradual, and I keep catching myself, and I play between the realms of it's always fine, it's always working out, and at the time when I'm really in my full embodied self and my heart space, like I wrote a budget the other day, like a new budget, and immediately manifested 3 pieces of work that were really, really highly paid. And it was like, I know that this works. I know that when I'm in that place and I trust and I put it down, it just kind of happens. So there's a deep, deep trust that is coming, that actually took me doing a lot of grounding work, talking about embodiment, because the whole root chakra area is about safety. And that was something that not dropped into, even, in like up until a couple of years ago. So there's that element of, okay, let's talk about it from this perspective. We know that everything is energy. We know that money is something that we have created as a way of exchanging energy, right? Whether it's service or whether it's time. So it's very much a conceptual thing. But if we go further down into the kind of energetic layer of things, it really is no different from the air that we breathe or the food that Mother Earth provides us with. I've started juicing again, and there's something about putting a celery in a juicer and getting the most amazingly potent gift of vitamins and minerals and going, I didn't need to do anything for this. This came out of the ground and it's giving me so much, because I think we're very distanced from our, from where we get our food and all of these things. This is relevant to money, because
It's great.
When we go to that kind of base level, we have everything that we need in every single moment. So it's really only the mind story that is telling us, I need to make this much, or I need to spend this much time doing this. And then you can say, well, yes, okay, I live in the real world, quote unquote. I have bills to pay. I have a house over, roof to support over my head. And there's this dance between the trusting and the knowing that we are innately abundant, especially when we are embodied and feeling aligned in ourselves, because everything will reflect that back to us. And then there's the kind of playing in the numbers and the sort of things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And for me, it's about making those two aspects marry as best as they can. So if we could let go of all of the stories, we would be able to just have access to all of the abundance that we needed in any single moment. I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are human beings and we have these amazing minds that do wonderful things for us and incredibly toxic things for us, we have to learn how to get that on board. And that looks different for every single person. So some people are really happy with the budgets and the numbers and the balancing and the finding the discounts, and like that makes them feel empowered and embodied. Other people find that they need to go with the flow, and that freaks them out and it feels a bit too constricted and constrained. And for me, it's very much a dance between the two. I love cleaning and I love having things clear. So sometimes sitting down and doing my numbers will feel like I've just, hoovered. It feels clean and it feels lovely. And then more will flow in. And other times my mind will go into overthinking and like, oh God, okay, I need this many, this and that in this amount of time frame. And that does not serve me. And that, again, when I would take a step back and go for a walk, because it's always worked out and it's always increasing and it's always getting better. So I think, again, I guess it's back to this thing of balancing the physical, mental, and emotional. We have to create a level of safety and trust on all levels. And when we do know what that looks like for each of us individually, we can come into that space where things just flow, and things really do just flow. I will walk into somebody in the street or reconnect with somebody by complete happenstance, and that will lead to an opportunity that leads to abundance, that leads to all of the things. So but it's just this game of trust, I feel.
Yeah.
So you said if we could really let go of all the stories, we would literally be able to just have this abundant, flow of money coming to us at all times. So how do we let go of these stories so that we can be in that receptive mode where it's just flowing, it's just coming?
That, I think it brings me back to that idea of self-awareness, self-compassion, unattachment. So we have to be self-aware to understand what our stories are and our triggers are. What our parents used to say about money, what we believe about self-worth and money and all of those things. So when we have that awareness, we can start to look at them and work with them. We can also understand what we're attaching to in terms of our safety and what we think we need to have, and the stories that we tell ourselves around, what that means about me as a person. If I do have this, or I don't have this, or I can or I can't pay this, what does that mean about me? And then, so there's the unlearning of all of those stories, and tapping into also how that's created trauma and unsafety in the body and the nervous system. And then there's the other side where we start to focus on what we do want. And the thing is, around the unattachment aspect of things, we only ever want what we think we want because of the way we think it's going to make us feel. So when we can start to almost trick the mind and find other ways to make us feel safe, free, abundant, and it takes real focus, because the mind goes, hold on a second, you want me to go to the park and look at all of the flowers and feel rich because I can see lots of flowers? Like, come on, really? But when you decide to do it just for the sake of doing it, you're like, okay, hold on, mind, I know you think that's a ridiculous idea, but I'm just going to try this because I would like to build the muscle of seeing things that I love and make me feel good everywhere. And that's where appreciation and gratitude comes in, and all of those practices that we can do because someone's told us to do it and then it doesn't work, or we can do it with the intention of, I'm just going to give this my all and see how it makes me feel. That's unattaching from the outcome. And when we do that, I mean, magic literally starts to happen. But it takes trusting and it takes focusing. And I go in and out of it. I have times where I will, make my appreciation lists and my gratitude lists with a full heart and complete unattachment. And again, money, jobs, opportunities, it just comes in. And then we go through this cycle of being attached to the outcome. And I go, okay, so if I do this and I do my gratitude and I'm a good girl, right? I do all the right things in the right order, then I'm going to get lots of money. And then, of course, my system shuts down because I'm attached to the outcome and I'm worried about what will happen if I don't do these things. So it really is, I think, playing around with this idea of creating and finding the feelings that we want to feel in a way that it doesn't matter how they come in. And then it comes in, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like attachment is really kind of the key here.
I think so.
When you were talking about relationships and how being, using your greatest gifts, but being attached to, the well-being of the other person and how that affects you. And then in this circumstance, you're talking about attachment to the outcome. Like if I do this, then I'm going to. So I think that the key is to how do we become unattached? How do we just come into the moment and like be in the moment, embody this present moment, feel the way that we want to feel, and then let go of the outcome as best we can. Which is really hard sometimes, but that sounds like from what you're saying, that's really kind of what we can strive for, not being unattached.
Exactly. And I think you completely answered it in your own question. It's about being present in the moment. Because in the present moment, you just don't need anything else. And it's also about being unattached to the fact that we will be attached because because we're humans and we have these amazing facets for projecting into the future and all of these different ways of thinking. There will be times where we can use that focus to be completely present. And then there will be times when that focus accidentally takes us out of it and our environment will trigger some kind of response or reaction in us. And I think it's being completely at peace and compassionate and forgiving of the fact that we are always going to dance in and out of the present moment. And, I remember, Eckhart Tolle even talking about, somebody said, well, how do I plan? How do I organize for the, and plan my future if I'm only ever supposed to be in the present moment? And it was such a good question. And his answer was, well, you can plan and you can think about the future, but you still are able to be present while you're doing that. So you might be aware of how you're sitting in the chair or how your fingers are feeling on the keyboard if you're typing or you're writing something down. So it's possible to dance between the two. But ironically, I think unattaching from the fact that we are going to attach to things and we are going to want to come back into the present moment gives us a whole load of self-compassion. And like you were saying earlier, Siri, it's like it's having those moments where we get triggered and we come out of the present moment. And then, like you were saying as well, it like that's perfect. It's the perfect storm because that's what we needed to notice it, come out of it, and come back home to ourselves again. So I think it really is, I've become a lot more forgiving of myself when I come out of it. And then ironically, that actually allows me to come back into the present faster because I just don't hang around in blame for as long. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think unattachment and presence is really key to all of this.
I love that as women, we are having these conversations, and I just want to continue to empower ourselves and empower other women and create more and more sisterhood and support in these ways where we can educate ourselves and we can help each other to see who we really are when we forget, and to come back to a place of, I know you're human. I know you fuck up. I know sometimes your nervous system gets dysregulated, and I see you and I'm here for you. Because we're all on this non-attachment, attachment, in and out of the present moment. I feel wealthy, I don't feel wealthy journey together. We're all walking each other home. And so, Amber and I are creating a sisterhood that starts in January. And Hannah, it's just, I love you so much. And I was telling Amber, like, it makes me feel so proud of myself to be so close to you, knowing that I know this is a little off topic, but like knowing that I came from a place of feeling insecure in my relationship in the beginning of my marriage around like other women being somehow a threat,
Mm,
you know? And it's like now, like healing the sister wound and coming back to a place of like, oh my goodness. Like
mm,
just accepting and loving ourselves and accepting and loving each other and just that humanness and like we're all just doing our best and we're all just trying and like us three here, we're so invested in our own self-growth and our own commitment to self-growth, but then also in serving others and serving other women and raising other women up and like showing other women like you can be empowered and you can do this and you can create whatever you want to create and you can be happy and you can be what kind of mom you want to be and it doesn't have to look like every other mom, like it can look like however you want it to look. um so I'm very excited about and here's the other thing that's a little tangent as well is like you're a cellist.
mhm.
And we haven't talked about the fact that you do all of these shows and how talented you are and you know how that informs your work and the way you work with people, what you've learned from being a musician. Like I'm curious about that too.
Oh, okay. There's so much. I love tangents. They're my favorite thing. Um, but first of all, thank you for saying all of that. I feel incredibly grateful and honored that you have had me on this journey because, and I think part of the reason that we felt safe to do that together was because you and I had very similar insecurities in our relationship. So I could, we were going through similar things at similar times, I think, and I could totally identify with you. And I was so impressed with you because I was like, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I don't know if I'd be able to be like, hey, yeah, you used to go out with my husband. Fab, welcome. And that made me feel very safe because to see you doing that work and walking yourself through that inspired me and made me just, yeah, I think feel welcome in your journey and trusted by you and allowed me to then hold space for you as well, if that makes sense. I feel very connected to you, like we were kind of meant to go through this at this time. and and it's beautiful, so thank you for, we've become really good friends out of something that was so random, that it just was meant to be. So thank you for saying all of that. And
Mhm.
um and the music tangent, yeah, the music is, again, I think, yeah, informing this balance for me. I've really come to know when I am embodied and when I'm not by how I'm playing,
Mm.
and really start to understand why that is. And again, know how to get myself into state, but also be much more forgiving of myself when I don't or I can't. um and it started out being a sort of a like, I want to leave this world because I believe that I can create more freedom and time and security, in something that a business that I'm building myself. And it's now become, again, talking about integrating parts of ourselves, something that I just love to do, all of it. Like I go and play because I want to go and play. And because it keeps me on my toes. I feel like it's really important. I mean, we all walk our talk as much as we possibly can do, and we're humans, and there are of course days when we don't. But I feel like it's actually I've come to realize it's a really important part of me walking my talk, because it's where I came from and it's how I came to all of the learnings and the realizations that I have in the first place. And it's also a part of my expression. I notice myself being more expressive with it the more I embody myself more fully, and I just don't give a shit as much. And I always, it was the point that I always wanted to get to. And I'm not always there, but when I am, it feels so amazing. And it's like, yes, this is what alignment feels like for me. So I've re-embraced it, I think, as a really important part of myself. And I'm just kind of really enjoying it, which is so lovely.
I think it's
Oh.
amazing that
It's fun.
that you've been doing it for so long and that you're so good at it and that you do it professionally and Yeah.
Well,
It's such a gift to when you just said like, this is what alignment feels like. Like, I know that feeling, and it's such a gift. And I think that's something that I feel passionate about, is supporting other women to find that feeling. Like,
yeah.
there's nothing better than that. In fact, I actually had one of those moments today when I was teaching. So I'm a dancer, and similarly to you, like, having walked away from that at certain times in my life and then coming back to it, it is when I feel the most aligned and the most, connected. And I had one of these moments today when I was teaching. There's some uncertainty happening in my life and some things that I'm having some, anxiety about or fear about. And I thought, you know what? One thing I know for sure is that nobody can take this away from me. Like, belonging to myself, knowing what alignment feels like and knowing how I get there. Like,
Yes.
that is such a powerful gift that, like, there could be, all kinds of things happening in the external. But if I know how to get to a place of alignment, how to get to a place where I'm in my power through whatever, whether it's music or breath or dance, whatever it is, like that, nobody can take that away.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody can take that away. And so, yeah, I don't know, I wanted to comment on that. Like, I love that. I could see that in your experience, like just the
Mm,
bliss of being in alignment
yeah.
is a gift. And I hope that every woman can experience that.
Yeah, and I think that's that. Thank you for sharing that, because it's such an important thing to come back to, that again, finding this balance between helping each other and knowing that we can always find that alignment, like that is something that no one can take away from you. And then there's the finding it and knowing what it's like, and giving ourselves and each other permission to find it, because there is, on the shadow side of the sisterhood is that competition thing of like, well, if you're shining, then I can't.
Mm.
And that's where a lot of the insecurity comes from, right? And
Yep.
if we are so safe and so know that that place of alignment is ours and we can find it whenever, then we're not threatened by somebody else being in theirs.
Yes.
Yep.
That's where
Absolutely.
the sisterhood thing is so beautiful, because it's like yours will look this way, mine will look this way. We can all shine at the same time, and it just makes us all brighter. And it's like so completely different. For I was completely the same as you, Siri. It's like that insecurity of if you are getting the attention, or if I think you look beautiful today, that makes me lesser.
Yeah.
And it just, and when you feel the way that alignment feels to you, and it feels safe and consistent, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. You just celebrate them, because you can see,
Mm.
love it, and you appreciate it, because you know what yours looks like. I think it's
Yeah.
when we don't know what ours looks like that we
That's
get
right. That's right. You're so
Brilliant.
true. You're so right. And that's why I like it. Women, this world needs women to be in their full alignment, like, and to help each other, like, so much. Our
Yes.
children, our children need us to be in full alignment. The world needs us to be in full alignment. And we've had experiences in our youth where, as an actress, performer, right? Like, that was my experience. That was the pretty girl, or that was the talented girl. She got the job, I didn't. Therefore, that means whatever it
Mhm.
means. So, yes, coming into this place where it's like, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take away anything from me. And so this new way of seeing the world, like, you being all of who you were born to be, does not take anything away from me. In fact, because we're all connected, it actually benefits me,
Mhm.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It actually benefits me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautifully said. So, so true, so powerful. Yeah.
So Hannah, I've
Mm.
adopted this question from
Okay.
one of our guests, Sarah Kranz, and she asked her mother
Yeah.
this, and then I asked Sarah this. When did you, and maybe it's not God for you, but in her words, she asked her mom, when did you feel the hands of God?
Oh, oh, wow. Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I'm thinking back now. And for me, God is just that awareness of that pure love that that's available to us all the time, that greater perspective. I don't know. Because I've probably got so many times. I actually grew up, my dad was a vicar, so I grew up as a vicar's daughter in the church. And I feel like I've experienced that love so
That's a
many
whole episode right there.
oh my God. Yeah, we could go into so many things from that. I have this moment where often when I am meditating or when I do come back to myself, I literally hear the words, she's back. There she is. She's back. And I feel appreciated and loved and celebrated, and like there's a team that's got my back, and I've just kind of turned the volume up on them again. And that, yeah, it's making me feel a feeling right now. It just feels like pure love, and it feels like pure support, and it feels like, oh, of course it was there all along. So I feel like I have that in various different moments and in various different ways. There are probably some fundamental childhood memories that I'm forgetting right now, but like, to me, that's how it feels when I remember it.
I'm getting emotional because I
Yeah.
teach Akashic record reading, and one of the basic things that I teach is the word of course. Is when we look at our past lives, is we go, oh, of course, that's why I'm struggling with this. Of course.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen. I want to hear what other people's answers are now. That's really, it's really,
that
really cute.
answer is so gorgeous. And when you said there's a team, like, I know that feeling. And I know that when I'm in fear, I'm not having awareness of my team. I'm feeling like it's all on me to figure it all out.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I come back to that place, and I love what you said, like, they're like, oh, there she is. She's back.
Yeah.
Like, she remembers, we're here, honey. We're here, sweetheart. Like, you don't have to do it all by yourself, right? Like, that's the difference for me between like feeling safe and secure, to go back to that, right? And feeling in fight or flight, because when I'm not remembering the hands of God or the team or whatever people call it, I go into that survival mode. Like, I need to figure this out. Right. So, I love that. I love that so much. I get like, I pull angel cards every single morning. That's one of the reasons why that's my morning ritual. I'm like, okay, team, give me what you got. Like,
give me the good stuff.
What's the message today, right?
I love that so much. I love that that's your practice. I love angel cards. I have this little thing where my mum told me that, if you see a white feather on the ground, it means that your angels are with you. So that's one of my little things. And yesterday I opened up the Christmas tree. We bought it on Friday, right? I was like, oh, I'm so organized this year. I'm getting it way earlier than I normally do, which I know is way later than people do. And it had sat there from like Friday to Sunday, and we found the tree base, and I finally started cutting off the stuff that they put it on it to keep it all together. And I opened it up, and as it unfurled, there was just this tiny little white feather on the bunches. And I was like, oh yeah, hi, thank you. Yep, gotcha.
I love that.
Those moments.
Yes, of reassurance. Okay, so we have like 1 minute left. I want to fit. Okay, so Amber and I talk about money, sex, and God, and like we want to do a course called Money, Sex, and God at some point.
Yes.
Okay, so we have not yet discussed sex with you. 1 minute, go.
Sex is so much better when you're embodied.
I'm take your time. Take your time, but like, yeah, I mean, what is your ever evolving relationship to your sexuality and in terms of being embodied?
Oh, wow. Well, so turning 40, I'm 41 now. Coming out of a relationship that I realized was not right for me. Claiming more of myself. I feel like, again, I am reaching new levels of the pleasure that I can experience because I feel safer in my body, because I'm not trying to be something that somebody else wants me to be. I'm not trying to hold back. I'm open to discovering new aspects of myself. There is definitely something that's waking up, and I love it. I love it. I just have never given myself permission to be this version of myself as of yet. And again, I think it's just yet another level of evolution, and I like it. So
The salsa dancing is
yes. Oh
doing
my
it,
God. And
right?
hip, right? There's something about opening the hips. And again, yoga, I've been focusing on the hips a lot. Different parts of the body store different emotions, and so much of our shame and our fear is in our womb space and our hips and our root. And there's something about waking all of that up, which is stirring something up. And yeah, it's really powerful. So I think money, sex, and gold is genius. Yes, please.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh, Hannah, we love you.
You
Thank
are
you so
so lovely.
much.
Yes.
I love you too. Thank you so much for having me. I could talk to you both for hours. Thank
I
you.
know.
Yeah.
This is the best. We always say it. We're like, there's nothing better. Like
Yeah.
having these conversations and falling in love with, I feel like I get to fall in love with women every time I have these conversations. Like I feel like I really do. Like I get to see the true beautiful woman. And I'm like, oh, like I fall in love with all these women, just how amazing we are, And it makes me sad that like many of us have spent a lot of our lives not seeing how amazing we are, but it's okay because we are now. And now that's why we're so passionate to help other women. Because we're like,
Yes.
wait a minute, like no more not believing that you're amazing, because you are, right?
Now is the time.
Now is the time. Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you,
So good.
ladies.
So
Thank
good.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
So good to
Hannah.
meet you, Hannah.
Yeah, you too. I feel like I've known you forever now. Now I've talked to you for an hour. Thank
Well,
you.
yes. Mwah. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
We'll catch up soon.
Yeah. Okay. Speak
Okay.
to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Oh my gosh. I forgot to get my tissues today. She was so lovely.
I'm
So lovely.
just always with the tissues.
I know you remember it. I don't remember to bring it here.
Well, I feel silly because I'm always wiping my nose on camera, but what are you gonna do? It's just what
are you gonna do?
happens. What happens? It's part
know.
of being human.
I was more playing with my hair than I normally am because I wasn't loving it today. And I was like, I was having that awareness, like, stop looking at your hair. Stop touching your hair. Focus.
Well, I thought you were very focused. You always have very insightful questions, and you're always really good at picking out exactly what they're saying and reflecting it back and like summing it up sometimes in new ways that are more simplified or like a different way that makes it integrate even deeper. I feel like you're really good at listening and distilling down what the person's saying and like coming at it from this other perspective and more simplified way of understanding it. That's what I notice in our conversations. And I think it's really educational for me and for the people listening, the way that you do that. And I'm always wanting to, be more in the moment as well, as like it's that thing she was talking about of like, what's the intention, right? I mean, we didn't talk about intention, but we both have the intention of getting the most out of the moment with our guest. And I think we're doing that. And I think that they're appreciating that,
I do too. I do too. It feels so good, doesn't it? I love, what else I love that I love the words that she used to describe, like being embodied, being not embodied, like dancing between the two worlds. Like that makes it feel so like, yeah, that's just life. Like we just dance from one place to the next. It takes like the harshness out of it and the judgment out of it. And it makes it just be like, yeah, that's just life. We dance over here, then we dance over here. I loved her accent too. I love the way that some of the words, I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always such a beautiful gift hearing a British
Yeah.
accent. I mean, you
You
can't,
live with it.
you
get to live
can't,
with it.
you can't go wrong listening to, I mean, they could be reading the phone book and you'd be like, oh my God,
Oh, I know.
right?
It's so good. It's so good. Oh, love
Yeah,
that.
it's wonderful hearing everyone's journey with the way that they're surrendering and learning and leaning into their gifts and how they've educated themselves. And it's always interesting, like seeing the commonalities of what people are saying, because I was like, oh, that's what Tina said.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I like that the more that we interview women, embodied, empowered women on this self-consciousness, on this self-aware,
Self-awareness. Uh-huh.
raising our consciousness journey,
Uh-huh.
the more we get to see those commonalities. It's really
Yeah.
sort of like an educational journey.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's quite fascinating to, I mean, I know we've talked about this, but like my whole life, I spent so much time going, do other people feel this way? Is it just me? Like, do other
Yeah.
people? And so to have these conversations now, it's so healing. It's like, yeah, every woman on some level has experienced feeling insecure, not feeling good enough, feeling in competition with the other, judging themselves, being in codependent relationships where there was some self-abandonment. Like, this is not just my story, this is our story. And then coming through that to a place where some catalyst has happened and we wake up and we go, wait a minute, I feel like there's a different way. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. Like, I don't think this feels right, that I'm not loving myself. And I don't know that we use those words, but that's the feeling that we have. That's the experience of our life. This is a result of me not loving myself. And I need to figure this out. That's my story. Like, I need to figure this out. Why did I not love myself? And how did that result in me being here? And what do I do to get,
Well, and that's the thing, is every time I've gone to the Gohonzon to my practice, or every time I've made a New Year's resolution, it's always been about, in my recent memory, about how can I love myself better? How can I love myself more? But just because we want to love ourselves better and want to love ourselves more doesn't mean we know how.
Right.
And I think that's what this is giving us an opportunity to do, as well as like, well, how are you doing that? How are you loving yourself better?
Yeah.
I love this. So I love being on the journey.
How are you loving yourself better today, Siri? How are you loving yourself better today?
Oh, Amber. Just, it's okay to be human. It's okay to fall apart sometimes. It's okay to not be perfect and always, dialogue things out in I was the calmest I've ever been. It's okay. Because we come back and that's the beautiful thing about the relationship I'm in, is we know how to repair and we do it fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And like what we were talking about with Hannah, you have had the opportunity over this past hour to come back into alignment, to regulate your nervous system so that when he comes home, you're able to approach the conversation from a more regulated, loving, compassionate, both for him and for yourself place, which is going to give you an outcome that's going to feel much better than if you were to have tried to, keep having a conversation in that dysregulated, frustrated, triggered place. So it's great, this is exactly an example of what we were talking about with Hannah.
Yeah. I mean, it's ongoing, like you say, the
Yeah.
relationship with ourselves and the relationship with our partner and the relationship with our children and then the relationship with our family. Like the conversation we were having it's going to be an ongoing conversation about how we parent and how we support each other and how we support ourselves. Like it's like Hannah was saying, like it's very exciting because it never ends. You get to,
It's
we
so
get to just
exciting.
keep,
I get to co-parent with my ex-husband for the rest of my children's life. And it's so exciting because it just keeps bringing me back to my practices. Just bringing me back to my practices of loving myself and being embodied. It's
That's
the
right.
best
That's right.
opportunity.
That's
The best
right.
opportunity.
Yes.
And I chose this. My soul said, this is how it's going to go down. This is how you're going to really come into a place of loving yourself and, practice all the tools on a minute to minute basis.
You're not gonna get lazy with this one.
No, because I need to be my most embodied self at all times. Like I literally cannot afford
Yeah, I get
for
that. I
too
hear that.
long to be out of empowerment and embodiment.
That's right.
And to be in dysregulation. Like it's very important.
And anyone, okay, we got to close. But because we're gonna keep going forever. But in anyone that has a mission, like you do, and like I do, and the women we're talking to do, any of us that have a mission, it's true. We can't really afford to take tons of time to be disembodied. Like, no, we're up to something, and we got to get here because there's things that need to happen for us to all love each other.
Like scream in the pillow,
and let's
do
go.
the dance, and then let's go. Yeah. Oh, she's back.
She's back.
Back. She had a little moment. She's okay though. She's okay.
I'm seeing the next show. I see the next show happening.
But you know what I tell my guides often? I was like, you try being in this human body on a consistent basis. Hard, right? Like, I know. Yeah. Anywho. It's good to laugh. I mean,
it is.
You have to have humor about it all.
It's great.
You have to have humor about it all.
Oh no, it's good.
I don't know what I feel like it's
you look good. Stop.
I was raised by a woman who
I was raised by wolves. I thought you were gonna say.
No, I was raised by a woman who used to sleep with rollers in her hair, so she'd have big hair. So anytime my hair is flat, I have this voice like,
your hair's too flat.
Make it big. You need some volume.
Oh my goodness. What a different generation. Sleeping with rollers in your hair. Yes.
Rollers in your hair. I mean, I don't think my mom has ever, maybe a couple times, but like very, very rarely has my dad seen her with like a bare face with no makeup. Yes. They've been together since they were 16, 17 years old, and she's 75. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Where's that? What's happening? What's happening?
We're trying to say goodbye to our audience. We love you, audience.
We love
Thank
you. Goodbye.
Bye.